Hello, glad to see you on my channel. I really value it. And today I want to share with you a wonderful story. It's a dramatic story that will come as a total shock to everybody. It is a really amazing story. So enjoy watching it.
The parents stood dumbfounded when they saw the boy, a carbon copy of their twins, at the train station. A 6-year-old boy stood in the middle of the station square. He was scared, looking around, and didn't know where to go. "Are you lost?" A strange woman in a brightly colored outfit approached him. Yes, tears were about to roll from his eyes, but he held them back. "Come with me." She held out her hand to him. The boy gave her his hand, and they walked through the crowd. At one point, he was frightened, broke free, and ran. "Where are you going?" The gypsy woman shouted after him, but he ran without looking back. The boy saw that the doors of the wagon were open and ran in. This very wagon was not attached to anything. It had just been standing there for many years. The boy walked along the doors, went into one of the compartments, sat down on the seat. It was warm and there was no one there. "Mom," he looked out the window, but there was no one there on the tracks. When it got dark, he was hungry. His stomach was rumbling. But he realized that if he left here, he would be picked up and taken away. And he didn't want that, because his mom would come back and he wouldn't be here. How would she find him then? He cried. Now that he was alone, he could do it. After that, he didn't notice how he fell asleep. "Hey, is there someone here?" He heard male voices in the night and opened his eyes. He was scared. "Come in, there's no one here," said another voice. Presently, 2 men climbed into the same wagon where the boy had been. They started rustling something, swearing. The boy heard it all. He looked like a mouse. "Come on, let's have a proper sit-down," said one. "What don't you like here?" The other one answered him. Narrow opened the compartment door of the one who wanted to sit down. He dragged some kind of sack in, and then he himself fell into the cramped space. Oh, they heard a child's cry. "Who?" The man started to look around, but it was dark. Now, flicked a second lighter. "How are you doing?" They saw the kid. "Mom left it." He crawled out from under the table. "How did you leave it? Permanently or temporarily?" The men were stunned to find a small child here. "She'll be back," the boy said pitifully. "What's your name?" One of his buddies leaned over to his face. Alex, who was smearing a tear down his cheeks. "Don't cry, Alex. Everything will be fine. Your mom will come." The other one ruffled his hair. They, not paying attention to the boy, sat down and began to put everything in the bag. And there was a lot of stuff, mostly jewelry. They had just come back from a job that had gone well today, and now they were dividing up the loot. "Anthony, why did you give yourself so much money?" One of them started to get indignant. "Don't yell, I'll be right there." They were flicking the lighter back and forth to get a glimpse. "Are you hungry?" asked the one called Anthony at the boy. "Yes," he nodded. Alex's eyes were so big when he saw it all. The man took bread and lard out of another bag, broke it off, gave it to the boy. "Thank you," the man said. Together they spent the whole night here. When it started to get light, Anthony and his friend just left. "Come on, Pariah, don't be sour. Mom will definitely come today." They told him goodbye and left him a gingerbread. Alex looked out the window again. He was waiting for her to appear. But Mom was not there. It made him so sad that tears ran down his face again. Now when it was light, he saw that there were blankets on top. They were all dusty and torn. But Alex didn't care. He was freezing. Slowly he pulled one out. Pulling it up, the others fell in after him. The boy wrapped himself up, put it on the shelf and waited. In the evening he tried to go to sleep quickly, not to think and not to be afraid. And in the morning they found him. No, not his mother, but the station workers. They were looking for the 2 men who had shared the loot last night. They saw that the carriage was unlocked. They decided to check, and there was the boy. "Who are you? Where are your parents?" A policeman asks him here at the station. "I'm Alex. Mom's gone somewhere. I'm lost." He wanted to cry again. "Where did she go?" the man asked the small child. "I don't know. I couldn't help but cry." "Okay, I see. We need to call custody." He got up from his chair. The station master walked into the office. Word had reached him that a little boy was lost. He saw him and smiled. "Were you with your mom?" He leaned over and asked him. "Yes," nodded the man. "I've never seen her leave a child like that," the man said in a half voice. "Do you know his parents?" "Where did she go?" the man asked the small child. "I don't know. I couldn't help but cry." "Okay, I see. We need to call custody." He got up from his chair. The station master walked into the office. Word had reached him that a little boy was lost. He saw him and smiled. "Were you with your mom?" He leaned over and asked him. "Yes," nodded the man. "I've never seen her leave a child like that," the man said in a half voice. "Do you know his parents?" "Yeah, and I'll call them right now." He pulled his phone out of his pocket. Alex heard all this and couldn't believe that his mom would come for him again and they would be happy. He sat down on the chair and looked at the door to see when it would open. Not an hour later, a woman burst into the office. Her eyes were frightened. She looked at the boy, and Alex sat and thought that she should leave as soon as possible because she was blocking his view. Katie and Selena met and saw each other for the first time at school when their parents brought them there. The girls immediately sat at the same desk. "My name is Selena," she turned to her desk mate. "And I'm Katie," the first grader told her back then. "Shall we be friends?" They both laughed. Yeah, Katie was okay with that. From that moment on, the girls were inseparable. They were always and everywhere together. They went to school, did their homework, and played outside. Their parents were happy that Selena and Katie had formed such a close bond. "It's good if they carry that friendship through life," said Sarah, Selena's mother. "Yes, they are like sisters," Olga Ivanovna, Katie's mother, agreed with her. The girls really thought they were sisters. If something happened at school, they stood up for each other. One didn't learn, the other gave advice. They did everything together. "Come to my place tonight," Katie told Selena. "What are we gonna do there?" They were already in 5th grade. "I don't know, we'll play something." Katie started to remember what toys she had. "Okay, just for a little while, or it's a lot of assignments," Selena agreed with her. So they met every night, one or the other. Everything was fine with the girls. They did not think about any guys or discos. They were still young, so they had only toys on their minds. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" asked Katie to her friend. "I haven't decided yet. I guess I'll be a teacher," she said. "And what are you?" "And I want to become a doctor," the girl answered with such a serious look. "Oh, they say you have to study to be a doctor for a long time," Selena said smartly. "It's okay. I'll help people later." Katie was sure of it. Time moved on. Now that the girls were not so young that they could go anywhere, their mothers decided to send them on vacation. They found out what vouchers were available, and for the summer the girls went to one big and famous camp in the south. They had a good time there and came back happy and tanned. "How did you like it?" their parents asked them. "Of course, if there are vouchers for next year, make sure we get one." The girls knew they wouldn't be bored. As the new school year began, Selena and Katie were still just as inseparable. "Will you come over to visit tonight?" After school, Katie asked. "I don't know today. It's back to school tomorrow," her friend told her. "Come, I'll show you something," Katie told her conspiratorially. "What?" Selena even got curious. "When you come, I'll show you." Her friend didn't bother to tell her everything. Selena came home. She couldn't even imagine what Katie wanted to show her. Everything she had in the house she had seen a long time ago. Then the girl remembered that Katie kept talking about some kind of basement. She said that when they moved, her parents had shoved everything she had into that basement. Maybe she had gone to that very basement, and now she wanted to show it to Selena. She quickly did her homework, left her mom a note saying she had gone to Katie's, and went outside. Her friend didn't live too far away, so within 10 minutes, Selena was at her place. Well, what's there? Intrigued, and you can't tell. She couldn't wait to find out what Katie had found and wanted to show her. "Come on in, I'll show you," smiled her friend. Selena went into the room where her grandmother offered her tea. The girl agreed because she knew that the woman made very tasty scones. While the grandmother went to the kitchen, Katie called the girl into a small room. They sat down at the table, and her friend took out an iron case. "What's that?" Selene didn't understand. "I'll tell you a story, you won't believe it," she told her. "My parents and I decided to dismantle our basement because there was a lot of junk taking up space. I asked to go with them, and we went." Just starting to tell Katie, as at that moment Grandma came in and put 2 cups of tea and a whole plate of scones on the table for her. "Thank you," they answered her with glee. "Eat to your heart's content." Grandma left the room and closed the door behind her. So when we were in there, I saw my old toys, dolls, railroad, and all that stuff. But I wasn't interested in it anymore, so we put it all in boxes and took it out to the yard. But there was still a lot of stuff in the basement, and when we went down there the second time, Dad said we should throw out the old dresser. Mom and I started pulling out the drawers to make it easier, and in one of the drawers I saw this box. I was so curious, I picked it up. But I couldn't open it for a long time, Katie continued to say. "And what? You never looked into it?" Selene wondered. She couldn't believe it. "Of course I looked in, but I didn't do anything. I left it to show you." She spoke as if it was someone's remains. "Well, come on, open up." The girlfriend couldn't wait. "Wait, that's not the whole story," stopped my friend Katie. As I was trying to open this box, my mom came up to me and asked me what I was doing in there. I showed her. She smiled, came over, wanted to help me open it. She did it. It was really quick. Turns out it was just a matter of flipping some hardware off. Kathy told her all this. It was so mysterious and interesting. Selena couldn't wait to open the mysterious suitcase. Kathy looked at her friend, took hold of the iron bars and pulled them open. Selena saw several syringes, vials, and other medicines inside. "What's that?" She looked at her friend. It wasn't very intriguing. "Come on, look at these syringes." She pulled one out of the box. It was glass. "Well, yes, glass syringes. That's interesting." Took one and considered it. Selene. "My mom told me that this box belonged to my grandmother." The girl got up, opened the doors, and called out to the woman. When Veronica entered the room, she immediately noticed the iron briefcase that had once belonged to her. "Grandmother, please tell us why it belonged to you and what you did with it," asked her granddaughter. "Oh, girls, it's a long and sad story," Grandma told them. "We're not asking you to tell the whole story, just tell us what you did with it. I was a nurse then, and that case really helped a lot of people. Now you have disposable syringes. You buy them at the pharmacy, give them a shot, and throw them away. In the past, there were glass syringes, reusable. With one syringe, I went through the whole war. My grandmother was sitting and remembering what it was like then. There's Selena. There's a reason I wanted to be a doctor. Turns out my grandmother was one, and I'm following in her footsteps," Katie told her friend right away. "Yes," she agreed. They sat for a long time looking at everything in the box. Other than syringes, there was nothing of interest. "Let's play doctor," Katie suggested. "Come on, and which one of us is going to be the doctor?" Selena realized that, but asked anyway. "Let's take turns, first me and then you," the girlfriend suggested. It was more fun that way. Kathy put on a white headscarf, went into the hall, sat down on the sofa, and waited for her patients to come in. Selena came into the room, holding a plush toy. Katie expertly placed the toy on a diaper, then examined it, drew some liquid from an ampoule into a glass syringe, and injected it into the toy. The tissue immediately turned a dark color. "Here, this is where it hurts," the newly minted doctor said. "What to do?" looked at her friend who had brought her a patient. "We need to do surgery," Katie said. She took the blade and cut where the cloth had darkened and pulled out the dirty absorbent cotton that was soiled from the product in the syringe. "That's it, I'm a doctor now," Selena told her. Then Kathy brought a similarly plush patient to see her, and all the manipulations were repeated. After all that, the animals were sewn up. So they changed several times, until Katie said she had no more plush toys to ruin. It was Selena's turn, so she pouted her lips and said that Katie had participated 4 times in this game and she had only participated 3. "Okay, I'll find something." Katie went to her room. Then she brought out a doll that had a rubber head. "How am I going to do her surgery if she's plastic?" the girl wondered. "So the head is rubber," Katie told her. Selena took the blade, held it to her head, and started to make the cut. But not a few seconds later, the blade slipped, and the whole thing went into Selena's arm. She screamed, but at that moment, her grandmother left the house. "Katie, what do I do? Help me," screamed her friend. Katie took the real first aid kit they had at home, pulled out some sterile bandages, and put them on her friend's wound before they treated it all with green tea and iodine. She started winding the bandage. She didn't spare it at all. It took the whole skein on her arm. Selene was in a lot of pain because when they pulled the blade out, they had opened the wound a little. She didn't know how she was going to go home or what to say to her mother. But from that time on, she realized that Katie was a born medic. She really needs to go where she wants to go. That day at home, Selena was scolded by her mother, as well as Katie, for doing such a thing without adult supervision. What if it hadn't been a hand, but something else, or cut elsewhere, and so on, the parents said. All this time, the girls were friends, socialized, had many different adventures. And finally, the graduation, the end of all classes. Everyone was excited and prepared for this day. "What are you going to wear?" asked Selena to Katie. "I don't know. Soon we'll go with my parents to buy something. Hopefully we'll choose something, and you." "And my mom bought me such a beautiful chiffon dress. I'll probably wear it." Selena said, "Come on, when?" Katie wondered. She began to remember the last time they had met. It had been in March, and her friend hadn't told her anything then. "Just recently, maybe a month ago. Now when I was leaving, he said he was coming to visit." Selena remembered Mickey. She felt sad. "Wow, girlfriend, we'll be at the wedding soon," laughed Katie. "Wait to talk about the wedding. You need to study a little," laughed that one. There was the whole summer ahead of us, where we could walk around and do the rest of our own things. At the end of July, Selena's young man arrived. "Mickey, hi," she greeted him. "How I missed you," he hugged the girl. "Come quickly, I'll introduce you to your friend." Couldn't bear to do it, Selene. They came in behind Kathy, sitting in her yard. "I knew you didn't pick bad people," Mickey said of Kathy. "Of course, how could I do that? Since I only ever have the best people around me," she giggled. In the evening, Mickey had to leave, and his girlfriends went to see him off. "When will you come next time?" the girl asked him. "I'll probably already wait for you. September is only a month away. It's very hard for me to get out," the young man replied. There in town, he helped his father, moonlighting for him. "Okay then. See you later." She kissed him on the cheek. Mickey climbed into the electric train and sped off into the distance. "Man, Selena, he's so handsome," her friend told her. "Are you jealous or what?" Selena even hesitated. "No way, what jealousy, just happy for my friend." Katie took a little offense. "Come on, let's go home." She took her hand, and they walked down the sidewalk. The month went by very quickly, and the girls were away at school again. Mickey asked Selena to move in with him, but she refused. She was comfortable in the dormitory. Maybe it was fear of the young man's parents or something else that was stopping her. "What if you and I got married?" Mickey said. "Well, when we get married, then we'll see." She wasn't going to do anything yet, no big moves. On New Year's Eve, The girl wanted to go home. She knew Kathy would come too. But Mickey said that Katie should come to their place and Selena should stay here. Selena didn't know whether to agree to that or not, but when she called her friend, she talked her into it, just as she had talked Mickey into it. The guy's house was packed with all the company, and his parents were there too. And after the chimes, he put a box in front of Selena. "What is it?" She looked at him with frightened eyes. "Selena, marry me," he told her with a huff. "Mickey, I knew you would do that. But it's still early. We're only in our second year. There's still so much studying to do. Why rush?" She couldn't understand. "So what would your answer be?" He seemed to miss everything she had just said. "Of course I agree, but I think it's very early." She stood up to him. "Oh kids, I congratulate you." Mom got up from her seat and hugged them both. Katie was happy for her friend too. Selena still insisted on having the wedding in the summer when school was over. Mickey agreed to wait. And so, the next session was over. Selena came back to her place. Kathy was waiting for her at the entrance. "So, friend, when's the wedding?" she asked. "In 3 weeks, as if you didn't know." "Yeah, of course I know. It's just good to see you." They hugged. After that, the hassle began, which was very enjoyable for both girls. Dress, veil, shoes, everything was there. But then the argument began over where the wedding event would be held. Mickey insisted that everything was in his city because he had friends and acquaintances there, and not only him, but also his parents. Selena, on the other hand, said that she wanted to do it in her town, where all her family and friends were. Eventually, the young man relented. Selena was glad that he did. Waiting for the wedding and preparing for it lasted so long, and the wedding itself flew by in an instant. No one even noticed what it was. "I hope we'll live in that town," her husband asked her after the wedding. "Of course we study there," she laughed. "Should we get an apartment or go to your parents' house?" Of course, if money allowed, could rent an apartment. Selena was afraid to talk about it because she thought the guy would think she was mercantile. "First we'll live at my place, and then we'll find an apartment," he concluded. Good, Selena agreed. She had more worries now. Not only did she have to go to school, but she had to do everything at home to please her mother-in-law. At some points, the girl just wanted to lie down and lie down. She was getting very tired. "You're lying down again?" Her mother-in-law told her, even though Selena had just laid down after scrubbing the entire apartment. In general, the woman had a nose for it. As soon as her daughter-in-law sat down or dozed off, she was right there. That's it, I'm getting up," the girl reluctantly said, got up, and went to do her business. After the 3rd year, there was an internship. Selena decided to do it in the same city where she and her husband lived, although it was easier to get a job in her hometown. But as Mickey had said, that was the way to do it. "Aren't you coming over?" Katie called her. "Probably not. I'll do everything here." Selena regretted it too, but there was nothing left to do. "Then I'll visit you for another day," Katie said firmly. "Okay, we'll be waiting," the girls said goodbye. Life went on as usual. All the practices and sessions were over. Selena had to go to work. She was a graduate. Katie had 1 more year to go. "Can I go to my mom's house and meet Kathy there?" "That Kathy, some flighty, bad influence on you," Mickey said and wrinkled his forehead. "Please," she begged him. "Okay," he agreed. They never rented an apartment. They still lived with her husband's parents. It couldn't help but get on her nerves. When her mother-in-law realized that they were staying here for a long time, she began to torment Selena. "Hi, it's been so long since I've seen you." Katie pulled her friend close to her. "And don't tell me, you know how tired I am." Selena took a seat on the bench. "Husband," my friend guessed. And he too. They were sitting right there at the train station talking. "Okay, let's go. You can tell me about it later." Katie stood up and pulled Selena with her. The conversation didn't stop on the way. There was so much news that they couldn't wait to share. They both laughed as they visited Selena's parents first, and then went to Katie's house. "Selena, you just don't look surprised," Katie warned her. "You and your secrets again. You've been like this all your life." The girls used to it. They entered the apartment where Katie's parents were waiting. A young man greeted them on the doorstep. "Hello," he greeted the guest gallantly. "I'm Carlo." "Celine," she stood looking at him. "Yes, that's my fiancé. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid of jinxing it." Katie bloomed with happiness. "You motherfucker." My friend knew this was to be expected of her. They all made their way to the kitchen. There was talk of the wedding. Now Selena was going to help her friend in this endeavor. He'd stayed in this city a few days longer than she promised her husband. "Why?" Mickey asked into the phone. "Katie's wedding is coming up. We need to help." She knew he'd start making up different versions again. "Or did you get a boyfriend over there?" Mickey was very jealous. "What are you talking about? If you want, you can come yourself. Extra hands will not hurt," she'd offered him. "You know I'm working." He didn't listen to his wife's excuses anymore, hung up the phone. Well, my friend was standing next to me. As usual, nothing new. The girl didn't want to talk about it. "Okay, don't feel bad. He's not going to kill you," Katie hugged her. After that, there was no time to think about Mickey, and everything spun and spun. The wedding day was set and the young people were ready. "I'll go home, talk Mickey into it, and we'll come over," Selena promised at the train station. "Okay, we'll wait to see how I am without a witness." They hugged again. Selena was walking up to the house. She wasn't expecting what was going to happen next. "She's here," her mother shouted from the hallway as she opened the door for her daughter-in-law. "Did you have a good time?" Mickey's out of the room. "And I told you there's a reason she goes there every time," her mother coaxed. "Come on, first of all, my parents are there. Second of all, my best friend's getting married." Selena didn't even get to take her shoes off. "And third, Loverboy, mother-in-law never left their side." "Mickey, I didn't expect that from you." She finally took off her shoes and went into the room. "If you go to the wedding, divorce right away," her husband told her. Then the divorce. She wasn't going to ditch Katie. "There, see how quickly you agreed. And you said you had no one there." He jumped up from the couch. "I don't have anyone there." Celine was already so sick of it all that she wasn't even looking for excuses. "Why don't you call me with you?" the husband continued. Before I could, you swooped in from the doorstep. She turned to him. "Okay, I'll go." He sat back down. "No one minded," Selena smiled. When the husband and wife were getting ready, the mother-in-law was so furious that her son did not listen to her. She talked about how her daughter-in-law had no shame or conscience, but no one paid attention to her words, which made the woman even angrier. "I thought you weren't coming," but Katie was home doing her bridal makeup. If you knew what it was like back home, Selena didn't even want to remember it. "Okay, I came with you." Her girlfriend looked at her through the mirror. At the registry office, everything was fine. Mickey stood by and didn't say a word. But at the restaurant, it started. A young man came up to Selena and asked her to dance. Mickey watched silently as his wife went with him. But as soon as she got to her seat, it started. "Is that him?" the husband asked. "Who?" She turned her head toward him. Then she realized and shook her head negatively. "I see. So, with me you do not dance. And with anyone?" Went, indignant young man. "Did you invite them?" They'd start fighting. After that, Mickey didn't speak to her all evening. When we got to my mother-in-law's house, he made a scene there too. "You know, Mom didn't know we had anything wrong with our relationship at all," she told him reproachfully. "He knows now," he said with defiance. "Do you often do this?" the woman asked her daughter in the kitchen. "Lately, constantly." Celine didn't want to talk about it. "It's going to get worse from here," Mom said from the height of her experience. "Okay, we'll figure it out somehow," Selena was already thinking about it herself. After all this, they returned home. Selena was offered a position at the school, which she didn't refuse, because it was impossible to stay at home. She and Katie began to call each other more often. In the last year of her studies, her friend worked part-time at the hospital, where she had an internship and then was going to settle there for a long time. In Selena's family, after she went to work, there were scandals every day, and her skirt is short and she wears bright makeup. "Do you do all this to make men pay attention to you?" her husband asked her at home. "What are you talking about? A knee-length skirt is not a mini," she showed him. "But it's all tight," he parried. "What, should I wear a burqa?" She covered half her face and left only her eyes. "Yes," he nodded, "or better yet, stay home altogether and listen to your nonsense." She went into the kitchen, but there was a new ambush. "Why didn't you mop the floors today?" her mother-in-law asked. "What floors? I was at work. I just got here." She wanted to come out of the kitchen. "No, honey, you're not going anywhere until you talk to me." The mother-in-law closed the aisle. "What do you all want from me?" She was so tired, she was ready to go anywhere. "To make you obedient, not as you are now," the woman explained. "What obedient? Am I a dog or a trained monkey?" Selena couldn't help herself. "No one said that, you said it yourself," smiled the mother-in-law. The girl pushed her away and went to the room where she and her husband lived. "That's it, I can't do this anymore." She threw her things into her suitcase. "Where are you going?" Her husband looked surprised. "Away from your family, as if sung together to drive me." She grabbed her bag and headed for the exit. "Don't go." He almost got on his knees. "Stand back, don't grovel." She stepped around him. "Selena," Mickey looked at his mother. "Let her go. She'll come crawling back later," the woman said arrogantly. The girl couldn't stand it anymore. She left the apartment and went to her colleague, whom she had befriended not so long ago. She knew that she wouldn't say no. "Nancy, hi." She said hello to her as she opened the doors. "Come in, what's wrong?" The woman saw Selena come in with a large bag. "Can I stay with you for a while? Then I'll tell you all about it," the guest asked. Sure enough, she took the bag from the girl's hands and carried it into the room. "I'll settle things with work and the divorce now, and then I'll think about what to do," Selena said. "Will you leave the collective?" Nancy asked. "I guess so. I can't be in the same city as Mickey," she said sadly. "It's a pity to lose such a specialist. You are young, but you can do a lot of things." The woman shook her head. They sat in the kitchen for a long time, discussing the situation that had happened at Selena's. After that, they went to bed. Both of them had to go to work in the morning. Nancy asked me when she was ready to leave. She always got to school an hour early to get everything ready. "Yes, I'll be right back. Just a few more minutes," the one said. The two of them came to the school. Selena decided not to procrastinate and to go to the principal at once. She explained everything. She asked her to finish the school year, and then she would let her go. Selena went to the meeting. Nancy said she could stay with her for that time. Mickey was looking for meetings, but Selena wouldn't agree to them. She was afraid of the fact that she would feel sorry for him. She had put a stop to it a long time ago, and she didn't want anything back. "You're so resilient," Nancy told her. "If you lived in that family, you wouldn't be like this," she laughed back. She filed divorce papers, with only a year to go until the end of the year. After that, Selena was thinking of traveling to the city where she was born. Don't forget, they were saying goodbye to Nancy. Of course, she left her address and phone number with her. It was a shame to say goodbye to the staff. They were all so friendly, but it had to be done. Selena drove home. "Daughter, how did you decide to do that?" "On what, exactly? I don't understand." "For everything, divorce, come back." The woman was glad to have her daughter back together with her. "I don't know, but it had to be done at some point." Selena didn't want to bring it up. "Are you going to get a job?" my mother asked. Of course, Celine looked up at her. Not sitting on your neck. Okay. Do you want me to call Sarah? The woman wanted to help her daughter. No, I want to do it myself. I've done it before, she denied it. Good. The mother was glad to have such a mature, sensible, and independent daughter. As she planned, so she did. The very next day, Celine was already sitting in the principal's office. Sarah, I wish I could work at your school, Selena told her. Of course, I'd love to take you, but not now. All the seats are taken so far, the woman regretted. Okay, I'll wait. As soon as something becomes available, call me immediately. She wrote a phone number on a piece of paper. After that, the girl went home. There was nothing to do at all. Katie didn't come for the summer this time. She went straight to work after she got her diploma. Selena was envious that her friend was doing so well, married well, and found a job right away, but she tried not to think about it. 6 months passed. Nobody called from the school. The money Selena had was long gone, and she wondered what to do. Selena, there's a phone call for you. Her mother put her on the phone. Hello, she approached. Selena, hi, it's Harvey, your classmate, remember? A male voice gibbered in the receiver. I remember not parts of it, she grumbled. I found out that you came to our city. I have John, my son. He is going to the 1st grade today, cannot study. Again quickly spoke the young man. Is it that bad? She thought, wow, he was the most inconspicuous kid in his class, and he's got a kid going to school. No, we just want to be safe, he said with a pleading tone in his voice. Good, she thought. Why didn't she think of that before? Not for free, of course, but how much? He continued with his quick story. Oh, I don't even know. Bring as much as you think you need, and I'll find out later and tell you. She thought it was the first time she was doing it. Maybe it wouldn't work out yet. From that date on, children began to enroll with her. Of course, she couldn't take many, but she had a few regulars. And why go out to school when you can earn money at home too? Her mother praised her in the evening. I'm so tired. Selena sat eating soup. From the children? The mother guessed. No, the loneliness, the work, all of it. It's just so monotonous, she sighed. Call Kathy, go visit, see how things are going, the woman advised. Indeed, Selena had forgotten all about her friend because of her work. And she was good. She had only called a couple of times in a year. Maybe she has her own business and problems there since she doesn't call or come over. Selena thought, calling or not calling. No one is going to hit you over the head. Just call, and that's it, the woman insisted. She herself saw that it was time for her daughter to rest. Okay, it's late now, and tomorrow I'll be sure to get a girlfriend. If I'm lucky, I'll get a little vacation. She spoke her thoughts aloud. That was fine. Her mom was glad she'd pointed her in the right direction. Kathy, it's been so long since I've heard from you. She called the next day to a friend. Selena, hello, how many years? How many winters? Rejoiced her friend at the call. You know, I wanted to come to your place. What do you think about it? Of course. What are you asking? You and I are like sisters, agreed to Taz's proposal. It's settled then, wait. I'll be there the other day. Selena didn't want to discuss anything over the phone. She knew they would talk about everything when they met. For a few more days, the girl accepted students who went to her. After that, she announced that she was going on vacation and cancelled all classes. She packed her bag. A day later, a train was waiting for her, which would take her to her favorite friend. And I've been waiting. Katie opened the door. Hello, they hugged. While Selena was dealing with her problems with her husband and her job, there were a lot of changes in Katie's life too. She got a job, just like she said her husband loved. He got a good job too. I see you have a full house, Selena said as she walked in and saw how her friends lived. Yeah, Carlo, you know how Carlo is. He does everything for me, not bragging. Just saying, girlfriend. Yeah, you're lucky. How was your evening? She asked her husband. You have a great friend. He hugged his wife. I know that. Kathy was glad it was going so well. She went to her room and lay down as well, needing some sleep after a night on duty. It wasn't until Carlo came in for lunch that both girls woke up. Wow, Selena looked at her watch. You can sleep. Carlo laughed at her. It's been a long time since I've gotten this much sleep, she stretched. When the man left, the girlfriends got ready to go for a walk. Your husband said he was going to introduce me to some friend this weekend, Selena told her friend. Probably with Albert, she guessed. How do you know? Did they talk about it? Selena thought it was all Katie's idea. And how could I not know my husband's friends? They are my friends too, she didn't elaborate. Confess your idea, laughed Selene. Why should you sit alone? You'll be in front of the man. He's a very nice guy. Kathy began to praise him. Then why did you split up? Selena wondered. Don't talk to him about it. It's a very bad story. His wife was going out left and right. Almost everyone knew except him. Once, at a corporate party, she was alone. He didn't go with her. And when it was too late, he decided to do a good deed to meet her. He came, and she was right on the street kissing her colleague. After that, they got into the car and drove away. That day, she came home only in the morning. He could not forgive and left. The friend told the story. Wow, there were no children? Selene clarified. No, Katie's gotten sad for some reason. Well, enough about sad things. Come on, show me what you have here and how. The girl translated the topic. All day long they went shopping, did some shopping, and then sat in a cafe. They felt like they had that time back again. When they were still enrolled in this city, it was so heartwarming and fun. So home, Katie got up from her seat. I'm not embarrassing you. For some reason, Selena thought of it just now. What are you saying? You'll get to know Albert. Move in with him. He has his own huge apartment, and there's not enough mistresses there. They walked towards the house. Actually, I came to you for a few days, and you already put me in a man, laughed the girl. We'll get you a job here too. Katie was sure of it. At home, it was the same as yesterday after Carlo came in. Happy talk at the table, and after that bedtime. Saturday came, Carlo as promised, told his wife and Selena to get ready, and he would go to the store and buy everything they needed. Gold, not a man, Selene glared at him. Spit or you'll jinx it, her friend muttered to her. Everything was ready, and they drove off. Carlo had a small house, which they considered their summer house. The view here was fabulous. Selena heard a car making a noise. She turned. It was indeed coming towards them. Here comes Albert. Carlo came out to meet him. Hello everyone. A tall brunette came out of the salon. He took one look at Selena, and she was gone. Come on, I'll introduce you to Katie's friend. Carlo led him to her. Please love and welcome, my friend Albert. He introduced him to the girl. Selene, she blushed. Don't be so embarrassed or I'll start doing it myself, he said cheerfully. Good, she said. All together they entered the courtyard, the men going straight to the brazier while the women busied themselves with the table. So, how did you like him? My friend was curious. Pretty, she didn't mince words. You bet he is. Look at him. What he looks like. That's his personality, Kathy told me. Oh, you think we're gonna make it? Selena wasn't so sure. Albert was really handsome. He was afraid to start a new relationship because he thought he would be treated the same way again as the first time. So, buddy, how'd you like the girl? Carlo was threading meat on a skewer. Yes, she's pretty, cheerful, and modest, he said knowingly. Shall we take it? The comrade joked. We'll see. Albert didn't promise anything. No need to be afraid. Things weren't working out so easily in her life either, Carlo said quietly. I understand, nodded the friend. They were roasting meat that spread its aroma throughout the village. Well, here's to you ladies. Albert raised his glass. And we're rooting for you, the girlfriend said cheerfully. Selene, let's go talk. He offered her his hand. Let's go. She looked at her girlfriend. who winked at her. They went to the swing set, which was right there on the grounds. They were both silent as they walked. "Did you come here?" He saw her sitting on the swing, walk over to swing a little. "Yeah, I hadn't seen Katie in a while, so I thought I'd meet up. Selena liked it here." "How long have you two known each other?" Albert wanted to know everything about her. Since first grade, once they sat at the same desk, they had never parted again. Selena smiled. He had already rocked her enough. "Carlo and I went to school together too," the young man admitted. "You're interesting." Selena didn't know why she said that herself. "We'll meet again. Why'd you go away?" He was curious. "Yeah, I'll be staying at Katie's for a while longer." Selena looked in their direction. "Carlo said you wanted to get a job here," Albert wondered. "They're the ones who want me to stay here." She hadn't had time to think about it yet. "And you?" He stopped the swing. "If only with you." She didn't realize how she'd said those words out loud, just thinking about it. Perhaps the wine was playing tricks on her. Albert froze. He couldn't find anything to answer. He just stood there looking at her. "I'm sorry," she's on her feet. "No, nothing." Still his stupor hasn't passed. Selena went back to her friends. Now she was cursing herself for her language. Maybe Albert would think she was imposing and wouldn't want to talk to her anymore. What happened? Wondered the friends as they saw that the young man had remained standing there by the swing and Celine had come back. "I'm such a fool." Almost crying, the girl said. "Explain normally what happened. Did you have a fight?" Katie couldn't understand. "Nothing happened. Everything is fine." Albert walked over to them and put his hand on Celine's shoulder. She froze and stood like that for a few minutes. Nothing more happened that evening. They talked for a long time. Then Albert and Carlo went to put out the brazier, and Kathy and Selena cleaned up the dirty dishes. "And yet, what did you get out of it?" Her friend looked at Selena. "I'll tell you later," she promised. "We didn't get home until the next morning." Albert said goodbye and promised to call. "Oh, Selena, if this works out," the girlfriend spoke dreamily. The next day, when all her friends were at work, Selena decided to go to the school to find out about vacancies. And to her surprise, they were there. The principal said she could hire her as soon as possible. "Katie, and I got a job," said a happy Selena in the evening. "No kidding," was happy for her friend. "Selena, you," Carlo called her on the phone. It was Albert. They talked for a good half hour. After that, Selena came into the kitchen all red. "What are you, like a cancer?" Katie thought they were fighting again. "He asked me out on a date." Selena was excited. Everything was going around inside. "So that's great news." Katie led her to her room. "Get changed. Stop walking around in jeans and sneakers already." The girl put on the dress her friend gave her, shoes, some makeup on her face. She was ready. So that's how ugly ducklings become beautiful swans. Carlo met them in the hallway. "What are you talking about?" His wife shushed him. "I'm sorry, you were already beautiful and now you're glowing," he complimented Selena. She hailed a cab and drove to the restaurant, where Albert was already waiting for her. When she got there, his expression was about the same as Carlo's. "Wow, that dress looks great on you." He took her hand and walked her to the table. "No need to embarrass me. That, believe me, is enough." She was all red again. "Why are you so embarrassed?" He looked at her, that blush only adding beauty to the girl's appearance. "I don't know," she shrugged. "Okay, let's order." He held out the menu to her. Selena had chosen a light salad and meat for the hot meal. Albert had ordered something for himself and some champagne. "Selena, after we met, I thought you could stay with me. I realized that you live with Carlo and Kathy. They have a family. You may be redundant, but they will never tell you that. I suggest you move in with me. We'll get to know each other, be close for a while, and then we'll decide if we should start something or not," he said in a businesslike tone that made Selena laugh. "I don't even know. No one's ever offered her that before. Think, He poured champagne into glasses. Okay, I need to consult with Katie, best friend after all. She didn't mince words. Okay, now, let's have a nice evening. He sat across from her and kept looking at her. They danced. Selena could smell his perfume. She didn't know why, but it turned her head. Afterwards, Albert walked her home. Remember what you need to think about, he shouted after her. Good, she turned and sent him an air kiss. He pretended to catch it and tucked it into his breast pocket. Oh, Kathy, I like him so much, but I'm afraid to hurry in case he thinks something, she told her friend back home. What would he think if he offered? She didn't understand. Well, then I agree. You cannot miss this option. And suddenly, in a joint residence, I do not like it too, Selena decided. Look how well everything is going. She found a job, met a man. Now just wait for the wedding. And that's it. Everyone is happy, rejoiced Katie. Selena moved in with Albert. He waited for her, prepared a room. The first day, it was kind of awkward. Selena was embarrassed of him. He must have been embarrassed of her. Going for an interview tomorrow, she told him in the evening. Well done. Break a leg, he rejoiced. To hell with it, she laughed. After that, he suggested watching a movie. Selena didn't mind that. It was good for the two of them, but it was only the first day. In the morning, she went to school. As promised by the principal, she was accepted there. Everything was going well. Not a couple of days later, Selena was in a new team. How was work? Asked every evening Albert. He was very attentive. In a few weeks of living with him, the girl realized it. Very well, as long as I like everything, she replied. We should get together with Carlo and Kathy sometime, the man suggested. I was thinking the same thing. She was no longer blushing in his presence. The couples called each other over the weekend, arranging to meet at the same place where they had been when Albert and Selena met. How are you guys doing? My friend started asking around. Everything's fine. Celine looked at Albert, looking to him for support. Yes, he nodded. You two aren't together yet? Carlo hurried things along. Wait, it's still early. Selena started to feel uneasy. After that question, it was never spoken of again. That evening, Albert spent more time with his friend. They were arguing about something, talking. It was good, because the girlfriends also needed to socialize. Katie, when are you going to make the kids happy? Selena asked. Date, she gestured for her to stop. Why? My friend didn't understand. Just, replied Katie sadly. Carlo doesn't want to. The girl guessed. No, it's more complicated than that. You could see she was having trouble broaching the subject. Okay, you can tell me yourself when you want to. Her friend hugged her. We had to get back. Everyone had things to do in the morning. Selena washed her face, said goodnight to Albert, and went to her room. She made the bed and lay down. A few minutes later, there was a quiet knock on the door. It opened and Albert appeared. May I? He asked. Yeah, come in. What's wrong? She sat up in bed. No, I just want to spend this night with you. He crouched on the edge of the bed. Wow, Selena had expected anything but this. He had brought a blanket with him, in case she minded sleeping under one. Lay down on the other side of the bed. Why today? She didn't know where to start the conversation, or if it was even necessary. I realized you're the one I need. I think you've figured it out by now too. He saw the way she was looking at him. Yes, she said quietly. They lay there like two schoolboys, neither one daring to be the first to do anything. Selena, he moved closer to her. I really like you. And you to me, she felt him hug her. After that, their lips came together in a kiss. It was their first real kiss, which they would remember for a long time. In the morning, Albert got up early to prepare breakfast for his beloved. Usually she did it, but today he wanted to make her happy. Hey, that smells good. She came out into the kitchen. Good morning here. Thought I'd make breakfast for you. He stood at the stove. Selena walked up to him and hugged him from behind. Thank you, she kissed his back. Aren't you late? He looked at his watch. No, I have another whole hour. She sat down on a chair and watched Albert put scrambled eggs on the plates. After breakfast, she quickly washed her face, got ready, and went to work. Albert did the same. He was so happy today that it could be felt physically. See you tonight, love, he kissed her. Have a good day, she went. Selena couldn't help herself, and already at recess, she called Katie and told her everything that had happened to her last night. Honey, I congratulate you, she told her. Kathy really was happy for her friend. And things were only getting better from there. Albert treated his beloved beautifully, and she reciprocated him. Listen, Selena, I think yours is going to propose to you, Katie said into the phone. What makes you think that? Selena and Albert had been together for a year, but there was never even a hint of it. Yesterday, I heard Carlo talking to him. He thought I was in the bathroom and couldn't hear, my friend explained. And what were they saying there? Selena got worried. Something about a restaurant and a ring. I'm telling you, it's a proposal. Katie couldn't keep it from her friend. Okay, I hear you. Cheeks turning red with joy. Albert was calm until the weekend. They had business as usual. I want to take you out to a restaurant tonight. Carlo and Kathy will be there too, he told her Saturday morning. Okay, I'll be ready, she was calm. She couldn't concentrate on anything at work. Good thing there weren't many classes. She got home early, so there was plenty of time to get ready. Selena tried on all the dresses she had in her closet, but either because of excitement or something else, none of them seemed to fit her. Finally, she chose the one she was going to wear, put it on, arranged her hair, and waited. Albert arrived without delay. The girl got into the car. Let's go. For some reason, Selena began to shake. It was the effect of excitement. Her palms were so cold that it seemed that if she baked something now, she would immediately freeze. How was your day? Albert asked her. Great, she said. You're acting kind of weird. He noticed that she was all clenched up and looking only forward. No, as usual, she tried to speak calmly. Okay. He put his hand on her arm, felt it was icy, but didn't say anything. They pulled up, got out of the car. Carlo and Kathy were already waiting for them. What an event. We might as well have sat at the cottage, Kathy said. Let's go. Not everyone goes to the countryside. We need to have a good rest, Albert called out to everyone. Now it was obvious that he was a little worried himself. The evening went as usual. Everything was already ordered, so the waiter only brought the dishes. At some point, they'd brought champagne. Before that, they had been drinking wine. Friends, I have a confession to make, Albert said. He stood up. In what way? Smiled Carlo. I fell very much in love with this woman, and I wanted her to be my wife, he said and handed Selena the ring. God, Albert, I love you so much. Finally, all excitement gone, she kissed him and put the ring on his finger. Congratulations, Carlo and Kathy said in a voice. Selena drove home happy. She looked at her husband-to-be and couldn't believe that this was even possible. Are you happy? He turned to her. Very much so. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Me too, he petted her. The next day, Selena called her mother, told her everything, and she promised to come. Albert suggested not to make a big celebration, to sign in the registry office and then go to the countryside with friends. Selena was not against it. Mom arrived. Carlo, Katie and a few other people were invited to the wedding. Everyone was happy for the bride and groom, and they looked at each other and were so happy. Well, that's it. Everyone's on board now, Kathy said as she raised a toast. Thank you. Selena walked over and hugged her and Carlo. Yes, friend, I will never forget that. Albert shook hands with his comrade. Life went on. Selena wanted to get pregnant, but it wasn't happening. She went to her friend's house in the evening to talk to her, because she was very close to the subject. You see, Katie, no matter how hard we try, it doesn't work, Selena told her. She spoke again in the quiet voice she'd used before when the subject came up. Will you just tell me? Selena knew that something was going on in the family of friends, but Katie kept quiet about it. Good, she looked straight into her friend's eyes. Well, she waited. When we got married, we were over the moon. This was the family. All that was missing was a baby's cry. But after a year, and then another, and still nothing worked, Katie was silent. Well, not all at once. Selena realized her friend was facing the same problem she was now. I suggested to Carlo that he should undergo a checkup. It was good that he didn't need to go anywhere. He could do it at our hospital, and he agreed. After we went to the doctor, it became known that Carlo would never be able to have children, she cried. Will you calm down? Celine hugged her. I understand and accept it all, but I can't get over it, she said through her tears. You can take an infant. I can't believe you don't have anyone there refusing, Selena suggested. Carlo doesn't want to. He was very upset after that examination too. That's another matter. She realized why her friend was in so much pain. Now you know everything. Kathy couldn't stop crying. Should we go through too? The girl asked her friend. Of course, it's not forbidden to anyone, said the one. That same evening, Selena talked to her husband. He agreed to do it. And a week later, they had all the forms in hand, only to go through the doctors. When everything was done, all that was left was to wait for the results. Are you worried? Albert asked his wife. Briefly, they sat in the hallway outside the doctor's office. When he called out to them, Selena's legs became cotton. She felt like she couldn't walk at all, but her husband was there to help. Yes, indeed, you have some problems, the doctor said and wrote something down. You mean we're not having kids? Selena almost fainted. Why, there is a solution to that problem, the doctor told her. What was it? She was all ears. IVF, he told her in just 3 letters. We agree, while thinking, Selena, said Albert. You need to prepare, read all about it, then take all the tests again and come to the laboratory, said the medic with knowledge. We'll get it done. The husband took his wife's hand and they went home. How can it be, 2 friends, and both of them having such problems, Selena lamented. And what don't you like with what the doctor suggested to us? Even if it won't be the natural way, but still the same, Albert said. Yeah, I agree with you. She's thought about it before. In the evening, Carlo and Katie came to visit them. There were no more secrets on either side. When do you all start? Asked Selena's friend. The sooner the better, she said. Great, and I'll be your personal doctor, Katie smiled. Selena felt like she was jealous. Okay, agreed the girlfriend. What Albert and Selena had to go through. But lo and behold, the procedure had taken place. Now it needed time, whether it would take root or not. How are you feeling? Katie kept calling and asking. It's okay, her friend answered her for the 100th time. Great, no exercise, no intimacy with my husband or anything else, commanded by my personal physician. I obey, laughed Selena into the phone. 2 weeks passed. Selena started to feel her breasts hurting. She called her friend to ask. Honey, I congratulate you. That tells me it worked out, Kathy practically shouted into the phone. Okay, then I'll make an appointment for a checkup, she mumbled. Everything was going well. Kathy counseled every day, and she also took her to her first ultrasound. The woman who conducted it was surprised when 3 other people walked into the office besides her colleague. They were Selena, Carlo, and Albert. All on the ultrasound. She laughed. Yes, Caroline, you've already forgiven us, stepped closer to her Katie. Okay, she rubbed Selena's belly. Congratulations, you have not just one fetus, but a whole. Why did you stop talking? Startled Celine. I don't know, it looks like 2. But what's this? She turned the device a little sideways. So how long? Albert couldn't wait. So far, I say 2, nodded Caroline affirmatively. Great, we were afraid there might be more, Albert smiled. He helped his wife up. Everyone went home in high spirits. We sat there for a while and parted ways. Selena was happy. It was hard for her to go to school, to do her lessons, but she did it. "Would you quit your job already?" her husband asked her. "You what? I like it," she resisted. "Look at the watermelon you're carrying on your back," he laughed, and right afterward, he came over and kissed her belly. She knew he was joking, so she never took offense. When she had to go on maternity leave, she couldn't take it anymore. She spent almost all her time in bed. Albert supported her as best he could. One evening, he got a call from work, saying that he needed to come there urgently. "I won't be long, I promise." He leaned over and kissed his wife. She hadn't been feeling well since this morning. "Please don't go," she held his hand. "I can't." He realized he couldn't leave his wife either, but at the same time, a fixed-term contract. He put on his coat and left the house. He decided that as long as he started the car and stood in traffic, it would be long, it would be faster to walk. He ran to the road. It was a long way to the crosswalk. He decided he would just cross. He just ran out onto the road. A car came out of nowhere, brakes squealing, darkness. "Selena," I called an ambulance, rushed her to the hospital. Katie came to see her. "What's wrong?" "I feel better now. I have to wait for Albert," perplexed her friend. "Get up, grab what you need, let's go," as if her friend hadn't heard her. Selena obeyed her. She was in charge of her pregnancy after all. She put on the dress. Katie helped with her shoes, and they walked out of the entrance. They were at the hospital in a few minutes. "Look, friend, you just don't worry too much, or it might start early." Katie took her hand. "What happened? Why is everyone running around me?" "It's still early. I'm feeling fine. Just my blood pressure is spiking a bit." Selena looked at the doctors who were here. "Albert." Kathy fell silent. She just couldn't say it out loud. "What's wrong with him?" My heart thumped in my chest. He'd been hit by a car. Carlo had gotten the call an hour ago. Her friend muttered in a trembling voice. "Where is he? How is he feeling?" Selena wanted to get up, but at that moment a strong tingle tugged at her lower abdomen. "Please don't worry. He's in ICU, alive." "But what exactly?" "Will be known later," muttered Katie. But it was too late. Selena had lost consciousness. She was hooked up to all the instruments that were needed. "C-section," shouted Katie already as a doctor. The preparations for the operation had begun, and everyone was fussing. Katie realized that her friend would not be able to give birth easily. She lay there, waking up and then losing consciousness again. "Anesthesia," the command sounded. The anesthesiologist inserted the needle into her back, and Selena, though she was almost unconscious, felt her legs give out. She was laid on the table, an IV in one hand, a machine in the other that took her blood pressure. Katie assisted, and the operation began. Selena couldn't see anything. She was as dizzy as before and sometimes foggy. "What's wrong with my husband?" she whispered with parched lips. "It's going to be okay." Kathy was doing her job. "That's it. You have two wonderful boys," she told her, but her friend was so exhausted from the whole thing that she didn't understand much. Since the babies were premature, they were immediately placed in special boxes. Selena was taken to the intensive care unit to recover a little. "Katie," Selena called out, but no one answered her. A few minutes later, a nurse came over. "What did you want?" She looked at the girl on the bed, who was pale. "Get Katie, where is she?" Selena thought she was shouting, but she was actually speaking very softly. "She'll be here shortly. Check the IV," and the girl left. In the morning, Selena was moved to a regular room. She still couldn't recover from the shock. "Hi, honey." Katie came into the room. "Where have you been?" Selena was already coming to her senses. "Don't worry, everything is fine. Carlo is with Albert." She held her friend's hand. "What's wrong with him?" Tears came out of his eyes. "He's in a coma, but the doctors say he's going to be fine." Katie tried to reassure her. "How did this happen? And where are my children?" Selena turned her head. They weren't in the room. They are in a special room. When you feel better, I'll take you there. Katie spoke quickly. Are they all right? Cried the girl. Yes, they'll be fine, her friend assured her, like a doctor. The next day, Selena got up. She went straight to them. For a long time, she stood looking at her two sons. Billy and Barry, she said aloud. Are you naming names? Katie came up behind me. Yes, look how tiny they are. The newly mommy drove her finger along the glass. Everything will be fine, don't worry. Her friend took her hand and led her somewhere. Where are we going? Selene worried. To Albert's. Don't you want to go? Katie stopped. Do you want him to come to his senses? The wife hoped so. No, but I guess if he hears your voice, he'll feel better, the woman speculated. They got to the floor above, and Selena saw her husband. He was covered in plaster and bandages. She came over and took his hand. Congratulations, you've become a daddy, she cried. He can hear everything, Carlo whispered in his ear. He's been here all this time. Sometimes Katie took over, but she had to work and rest. I know, Selena said through tears. She went back to her room, called her mother, told her about everything, and she came to see her the next day. A few weeks passed. Albert came out of the coma. Kathy said that soon the children could be moved to a normal environment. They had grown up and could now do everything like full-grown children. Albert, his wife, came to see him. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you then. He couldn't make himself intelligible, but she understood him. It's going to be okay, she kissed him. And so, after a long time, Selena, her mom, and two wonderful babies were home. So, we need to get everything ready here. The woman looked at the room the parents had allocated to the children. The crib had been bought, everything else too. Albert had to do it all while his wife was in the hospital. But as it happened, they had to do everything themselves. Selena was very grateful to her mother and friends for helping everyone. One day, she was sleeping and had a dream, and in it, she and her 3 children. Then she wondered why there were 3, because she had given birth to 2. In the morning, Selena told her mom. It's just a dream, the woman told her. But Selena began to remember that during the surgery, 3 times, it felt like her skin was being stretched. The first time, there was a baby. The second time, there was a baby. But after the third time, there was nothing and no one. That's what she told her mother. Daughter, Kathy told me you were out of your mind, the woman smiled. So what? I remember all that. Selene squinted her eyes. Probably Kathy would have told you about it, Mother suggested. Katie, her husband, has been diagnosed as infertile, snarked her mother. And what? You think she took the baby from you? I realized what my daughter was thinking. Why not? Selena was being paranoid. So, look, it's all in your head. And where do you think he is now? Mom wanted to reassure her. Hidden away, there was speculation again. Don't talk nonsense. There's so much to do. Albert will be discharged soon, and he needs care. The mother continued with her chores. Hi, how are my puffins doing? Katie's here to visit them. Selena knew Carlo was in the hospital, and if Katie was here too, where was the baby? She shook her head to make the silly thoughts go away. All together they drove this evening. The boys were so pretty. Albert had been released from the hospital. Carlo had brought him home. He was no longer the cheerful man he'd been before the accident. The base of his skull was fractured, as well as his hip joint. He had to be taught to walk again. Thank you for not leaving us, Selene hugged her husband. I'm sorry, they put him on the bed. Now it was as if there was a third child in the house. My mother-in-law and my wife took care of all of them as best they could. The boys were growing up. Albert started to get up slowly, and his wife was always by his side. Come on, darling, one more step. He walked around the apartment. He tried. He did not want to fall in the mud in front of her. Of course, he got tired quickly, but he did it with all his might. Selena, bring me the children, he said, and she went straight for the 2 toddlers, who were already crawling around the apartment. Oh, you're so fast. Dad couldn't handle them. Imagine if it had been 3. Celine seated herself at his side. What are you talking about? It's not the first time I've heard it. Get it out of your head and bring up Barry and Billy. He looked at each. You got it all mixed up again, Celine laughed. Okay, I'll remember soon. He was still very weak. Selena, I suggest you take Albert to the surgery. He'll feel better immediately afterwards. He'll be able to walk normally, Kathy called her. That's what they did. The wife arranged with a clinic. The price was reasonable, and Albert was taken. When the boys were almost a year and a half old, their father walked around the apartment with a cane. Well, tomboys, he stood his ground. Dad, they ran to him. Soon the kindergarten line would be coming up. We'd have to call Mom again, Selena said. I don't mind. Albert loved his mother-in-law. Selena had to go to work, so she called her mother, who was happy to visit her daughter and son-in-law. It was not a burden for her to take care of her grandchildren. Have you noticed that Carlo and Katie have been coming over less often? Selena asked her husband. Here we go again. Calm down already. We would have found out a long time ago if it was as you say. Albert was losing his temper. I don't know, but I'm sure of what I'm saying. Selena stepped away from him. She watched the mother settle the children and grimaced. She dreamed about having 3 children very often, and after that she woke up in tears. But she never told anyone about it again. Everyone just laughed at her. Were you sick again? Albert kissed her. No, it's okay, she replied to his kiss. The boys went to kindergarten. They liked to run and play there. When they were 3, their grandmother went to her place. After that, they were taken there on long weekends. I'm going to go to work, Albert told his wife one day. Are you sure you can do it? He's walking now, but he's still limping a little. Yeah, he was ready to go into battle. Okay, just please be careful, his wife told him. He left, and she walked him to his car. Selena was working now too, and her sons were big, so she had no trouble getting them in and out of the garden. They dressed on their own, and then spent the whole trip telling their mom all about what they'd been fed and what they'd done. Life took a new turn. At home, the special bed Albert used to sleep on was removed. The cribs were also moved to the closet, and now there was a beautiful bunk bed for the boys. Wondering if there were 3 of them, where the third would sleep, Celine stood looking at the rearrangement of the room. Stop fantasizing, her husband, who heard her thinking out loud, told her. Trust me, it's not a fantasy. A mother always feels. She turned to him. Why don't you talk to Kathy directly? You've been friends for so many years. He told her then. What if it really is my fantasies and the man takes offense? Selena thought to herself. They were less likely to go to the dacha with their friends now, either because they didn't have the time or the opportunity. But today, they just wanted to rest, especially since tomorrow was a day off. Katie, hi, Selena called her girlfriend. And good luck to you, she replied with humor. Now I got a call from the railroad station master saying my son was there. She quit as she told me. I don't understand anything, call your mother, shouted Albert. Selena dialed a number, but her cell phone was out of range and no one answered her home phone. Lord, really? Come quickly, she hurried her husband. They got into the car and drove to the train station. While Albert was parking and getting out of the car, Selena had already run into the building. She was shown the door, she opened it and froze in place. A few minutes later, her husband came in after her. He too was amazed. Hello, brought them out of their stupor by the policeman. I need to talk to you, Selena told him. She looked at her husband, who was still staring at the boy. Okay, let's go outside. He showed her where to go. You understand, this is my son, but not mine. I mean, I didn't raise him. She began to ramble, not knowing how to explain everything to this man. What are you talking nonsense? You decided to get rid of the child, so have the strength to admit it. He did not believe her. Did you call custody? She asked. Yeah, He saw his partner call the authorities. They'll be here now, and we'll ask him ourselves. Selena breathed out. She was pounding so hard, she couldn't do anything. Hey, Albert came up to the guy. Hello, Alex looked at this unfamiliar uncle, but he wasn't scared. Albert couldn't believe his eyes. In front of him sat a boy who was a carbon copy of his twins. What's your name? He asked. Alex, the guy answered quickly and simply. Alex, Albert repeated after him. When the guardianship came, they couldn't understand a thing. Selena told them some stories about childbirth and skin tension and everything else. Woman, have you been drinking? The oldest asked her sternly. No, I'm telling you, she puffed up her lungs again. Wait, Albert came over. Look, he pulled a picture of the children out of his wallet. Then they couldn't understand anything. So is this your child or not? They asked again. Yes, I gave birth to him, but I didn't raise him, Celine said for the 100th time. Nothing is clear, we're taking the boy, when you've made up your mind. Come and see us, she handed her her card. Let's go to Kathy's, Selena commanded her husband. A few minutes later, they were already at her friend's apartment. Selena couldn't calm down. She was still feverish. What's the matter with you? She opened the door for them. How many children have I given birth to? Finally, this question did not come as a shock to either her or her husband. What are you talking about? Her friend didn't understand. Just answer the question. How many children have I given birth to? Name a number. Selena thrust at her. Let's go to the room, she called them. Albert realized that the conversation would not be short. Speak up already, or I won't vouch for myself, Celine glared. Stop yelling already. Yes, you gave birth to 3. But how could you know that? Cried Katie. How, you're still asking? Did you sell it to someone? Yelled her friend. Crazy, I would never do that. She got up and went to get water. She took it for herself and hid it somewhere. That's Selena's second theory. What's wrong with you? I'll tell you all about it now. She took a few sips and poured Celine a drink. I don't want to. I'm listening to you. She pushed the glass away. When the labor started, you were very bad. I ordered a C-section, but you remember that yourself. One baby was big, he was fine. The second one was a little smaller, but also normal. But the third one had a triple entanglement. He was almost dead. I didn't even show it to you. Can you imagine what would have happened to you? Your husband had an accident. He was in intensive care, and the baby was dead. Katie was crying the whole time. And where did you put it? Throw it away. Selena spoke in a different voice. No, I gave him to the nurse who was there to take him to the doctor unnoticed. She said that the kid was not alive. One lung had not developed, and he would not live till morning. That's what happened. The same nurse came to me and told me the baby was dead. I asked her to bury him. All I did was keep the secret for so many years. I didn't think it would come out. Katie hugged her friend. Forgive me, and I've thought all sorts of nasty things about you over the years. Selena felt guilty. So how did you find out about the baby? Kathy couldn't understand it. Then Selena and Albert told her everything. Jesus, did he survive? Her friend clutched at her heart. It turns out so. Albert quickly walked over and gave her some water. Let's go. The woman got to her feet. She couldn't drive herself, so they got into Albert's car. Kathy told him the address. It was outside of town. And who lives there? Selena looked out the window to where they were going. That same nurse. She's been out of work for 3 years now. She was old, retired. It didn't go to my head. They drove up to the old house, which was already leaning to one side, got out, knocked on the window. There was no answer, as it was dark outside. No light could be seen inside. Who are you here to see? Grandpa came out of the other half. To Grandma Lucy's, Katie said. She's gone, dead since spring. He wiped his eyes. Who did she live with? The woman asked then. With me. You could hear he was having a hard time. How? She pointed to the house. Just like that. with us in one half and her daughter's no-nonsense daughter in the other, he invited everyone to come in. "What's your name?" Katie asked him. "Archie." He led them to the table. "Did you and Grandma Lucy have a small child?" Katie asked the question cautiously. "Alex, was it?" He answered promptly. "Yes, Alex," jumped up from her seat Selena. "Oh, such a story." He got up and walked over to the stove. "Tell me about it," Albert asked him. "Betty worked in a maternity hospital. Some woman gave birth there. They gave her a baby, said she wouldn't live till morning. So she came up with an idea to keep her daughter at home, to bring the baby, and told the doctor that he was dead. And the doctor told her to bury him, so she brought him in and he smoked. But he was premature and sickly. Did the doctor really say he wasn't alive?" Katie didn't understand. "You know what grandfather Ugraph is like. He will raise a dead man from the grave." The old man clenched his fist. "I see. Cue it ourselves." Katie looked at Selena. "Betty brought it to Julia, but she refused. It wasn't mine. And that's all. They told everyone then that the daughter had fattened it. She was such a girl. She could stay away from home for months, and we took her for fostering. But we didn't keep her safe." And he cried for real. "What's wrong?" Albert came up to him. "I left the house for the woods, and Klavka took the boy and took him somewhere. The neighbors told me. I saw her later in the evening, silent as water in her mouth. He was still wiping his tears. Don't worry, we found your Alex." They started to leave the house. "So where is he?" The old man held out his hands to them. "As soon as we're done, we'll be there." The man turned to him. At home, everyone was sitting around the table. Now Carlo joined them. "What to think? We have to go to the guardianship and get the boy." Albert was the first to speak. "It's not negotiated at all, but according to the documents, he has a mother," the comrade said. "But Alex has it written all over his face. We even have a witness, he remembered his grandfather. I think the doctor who did the exam will say everything too. Won't keep quiet." Katie was sure of it. In the morning, Carlo drew up a statement to the court. The others came to the guardianship office. Alex was so happy about the guests, and it didn't matter that they had only known each other for a few hours. "Alex, are you coming to live with us?" Selena asked him. "Where's my mom?" He looked her in the eye. "I'm your mom, and that odd just stole you from me a few years ago." She tried not to cry. "I don't know." He stepped away from Selena and walked over to Albert. "And you're my dad?" "Yeah." He couldn't sit down, so he just leaned into it. "I like you, but what if the real one comes?" He still couldn't believe what this auntie said. "I am the real me. Look." She showed him a portrait of Billy and Barry. "Who's that?" He was so stunned that the picture fell out of his hands. "These are your brothers, and I'm their mom." She hugged him. Claudia was stripped of her parental rights. The doctor and Katie were removed from their positions. Alexander was reinstated on all documents. He was now Selena and Albert's son. "Mom, can you bring the boys yourself?" Her daughter called her. "Of course, and what happened?" She began to find out. "I'll explain it to you later on the spot," at which point all the courts were just pulling. Grandma entered the apartment with the boys, and all three of them froze in place. "Well, who's the crazy one here?" She looked at her mother. "Daughter," the mother began gulping air with her mouth. Mom quickly gave her some drops. When everyone had calmed down, the boys went to meet their brother, and Celine kept telling them what had happened. "How could you? You could feel it," the woman lamented. "Mother's heart can't be deceived." She hugged her mom. "Yes, I thought that such things are only invented in TV shows and movies, but here it is. It happened to us. You could see that my grandmother is still in shock." "Let's go," Celine called out to everyone. "Where to now?" her mother asked her. "Someone I'll introduce you to." Selena smiled enigmatically. They arrived in that very village to Archie's grandfather. He was sitting on the stoop smoking. "So, meet your grandfather's grandchildren." Selena got out of the car. "I think I had one." He got back on his feet. and now free, the woman laughed, and one by one, Barry, Billy, and Alex began to get out of the car. "Whoa, what's mine?" He stood there confused. All three of them, no turning away now, still she smiled. After they had visited the village, Selena dialed her friend's number. "You're not mad at me?" Selena asked that question first. "What's it got to do with you if it's your fault? I'll meet you at the cottage." She wanted her friendship and this party back. "Of course, I thought you were the one holding a grudge against me. That's why you didn't call." Selena thought her friend cried. "You what?" They both laughed. That same evening, everyone was at the gathering. It seemed like everything was the same as before, only the children were now 3 instead of 2. "And where did you put the third one?" Her husband reminded her of a question he'd asked her before. On the couch. She looked at everyone confidently now, not like when everyone took her for a fool. It had been decided that the children would not go to school. Alex was far behind, and Selena wanted to get him up to speed in a year. Barry and Billy were happy about that too, and Albert realized that he and immediately said the right things. It was too early for the boys to sit at desks. When not 2, but 3 identical boys were brought to the kindergarten, the teacher grabbed her head. Albert and Selena stood aside and watched their children. They were so happy, even though they had been through so much together.